Okay, this video is a book review of Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. This picture right here is sort of a mural of really his other books like the Chronicles of Narnia. There's the great lion Aslan, sort of a Jesus Christu figure. There's the Wicked Witch in the wardrobe and one of the wolves who services her. There's the wardrobe that the kids walk through to step into Narnia, this incredible place. So anyways, I thought the Chronicles of Narnia books were great. I actually liked them a lot. I actually like C.S. Lewis. I thought he's more entertaining to read than is The Lord of the Rings. I mean, The Lord of the Rings is a lot more famous, but C.S. Lewis was great. So anyways, okay, we're going to go through some of the best quotes from this book. C.S. Lewis, I'm supposed to advance a page here. Let's see, this should advance me a page. Maybe this will do it. Okay, C.S. Lewis here, we're on page 2 now. He said, "Is Jesus Lord, liar, or lunatic?" That's sort of what Mere Christianity was about, coming to terms with that. C.S. Lewis, like many other great writers and genius thinkers, was homeschooled. Okay, that very often is the case when he was young. But his mother died when he was only 9 years old, very sad. And his father sent him off to a boarding school, which he hated. And he was super lonely. That's another thing that gets a person to read a lot. I know what that's like. He was from Northern Ireland, Belfast, and he actually was a Protestant. He lived from 1898 to 1963. His two most famous books were Chronicles of Narnia and Mere Christianity, but he wrote a whole bunch of other books. My father used to read them a lot when I was young, and that kind of got me started reading them when I was young. There's some good courses about him at Wondrum and the teaching company courses about him, his life. And I read a couple other books about his organization called the Inklings. Anyways, after boarding school, by the way, his teachers, when he went to high school, they said that he was incredible for how much he read. The teacher said they never saw a kid ever read as much as he did. He went through a phase when he was a teenager, early 20s, when he was an atheist. Then he sort of went to the theist phase, that there is a God, but we don't know what his influence is on humans, to then becoming a Christian. He went and fought in World War I, was wounded, but made a good recovery, went to Oxford, and he then eventually became a professor of English literature at Oxford, and he was the chair of the medieval and Renaissance literature at Cambridge. They never gave him a full professorship. You know, Irish guys always get screwed. He was good friends with J.R. Tolkien, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Here's a quote from C.S. Lewis. "Very often, the only way to get equality in reality is to start behaving as if you had it already." And that's kind of like Goethe's quote, that give people the benefit of the doubt, and they're more likely to grow into what you expect of them. And Goethe also said a person has to think higher of themselves than they actually deserve to before they can get to be where they want to be. So yeah, it's all kind of positive mental attitude, and you grow into your aspiration if you keep working hard. Okay, C.S. Lewis. Basic quotes about success here. "The only people who achieve much are those who want knowledge so badly they seek it when the conditions are unfavorable." Favorable conditions never come. Like I said, you got to read in your bathroom. You got to listen to audiobooks in the car, or you're never going to have enough time to read as much as you want. And even then, you're going to wish you had more time to read. C.S. Lewis. "I believe in Christianity as I believe the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else." Yeah, it gives you a way to perceive the world. And, you know, that's one of the reasons, too, why I was so inspired by Christianity, because I see all the best artists, not all of them, but the vast majority of them, they're all Christian, okay? The ones who made the best paintings, who wrote the best books, who did the best architecture, and who did so many other great things. It's very inspiring and energizing. Michelangelo, the best artist, the best composers, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, etc. Okay, C.S. Lewis. "It is the liberal arts, not vocational training, that preserves civilization by producing reasonable men and responsible citizens." Yeah, you learn how to talk. You learn how to articulate yourself. You learn the history of the world, and you learn how to recognize bullshit and, you know, unfair rulership at an earlier phase. Okay, let's see. They both liked Norse mythology, C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien. Plus, they were part of a group called the Inklings. The Inklings were a group of English literature-related professors at Oxford in the early 1900s, and they met and would have all these conversations, and they would read each other's books, proofread each other's books, edit each other's books. CSL also started a club called the Socratic Club to debate topics. And it's great. You know, one of the things an intelligent person highly values is having a friend they could talk to. Because most people don't read much and you can't talk to them about all this literature stuff and books. But so many great ideas come from these conversations that it's wonderful to have a friend with similar interests. Okay, C.S.L. Lewis was a good debater. He actually really admired G.K. Chesterton. So G.K. Chesterton and Chester Bullock were two brilliant Christians of the early 1900s. They were Catholics. C.S. Lewis was a Protestant. By the way, Protestantism is sort of bleak, in my opinion, kind of barren compared to Christianity. They don't have as much appreciation for the saints or for the Virgin Mary or for art. They're a little bit Spartanish compared to the Catholics. I think the Catholics is more fun, but be that as it may, C.S. Lewis said that contraception was to Christianity what Balin's Dolores Stroke was to the kingdom of Pelham and turning it into a barren wasteland. So, yeah, and there's actually a lot of truth in that. When all the women went on the pill, stopped having babies, Christianity has really shrunk in its influence in society since then. Don't think that's an accident, okay? It's one of the reasons why the birth control pill is promoted so much. Get rid of all the Christians and, replace them with the open border. Okay, here's a good quote by C.S. Lewis. He says, Christians live in an enemy-occupied territory. The true Christian church is an underground movement. And there's a lot of truth in that, too, in the sense that a lot of the so-called organized church is bogus and infiltrated and fake versus people who really believe in Christianity. They really believe in it, okay? And they just feel it. I mean, it does so many wonderful things. Okay, here's a quote by Marcos. This Louis Marcos, he's the one who has a course about C.S. Lewis on the teaching courses and Wondrium. Same thing, the teaching company, DVD courses, audio CD courses. And he says, Marcos says, and this is in his course about C.S. Lewis, he said, communism says that equality is the highest goal, but it can only be achieved by killing the kulaks or whoever is the other scapegoat of the moment and taking the property away from most people. Yeah, so watch out for somebody pushing equality, because what they really want to do is smush everybody down into poverty, lowest common denominator, except the ruling party itself. So it's all bad. And Ayn Rand, she was brilliant, and she grew up in Russia, and so she knew what communism was like. Her father owned a pharmacy, and they put him out of business, and she emphasized the smallest minority is the individual of one person, and you should respect their rights, because if you get into all this socialist BS, like, Jeremy Bentham, for example, in his group, they would say, well, the greatest good for the greatest number. That sounds good at first, but when you think about it, it's actually a very bad, evil thing to say, because Ayn Rand pointed out the greatest good for the greatest number means that you basically, if you got 10 people, 9 of them can get together and say, you know what, we'd like cannibalism. They're going to eat the 10th person. Okay, that's the greatest good for the greatest number in that context. So you don't want that. That leads to bad things. You want the individual's rights have to be respected. Okay, the individual's one person. Let's see. C.S. Lewis quote. He said, "Satan wants cattle who become food. Jesus wants sinners who become sons." Okay, so there's another key point. If you believe man is created in the image of God and Jesus loves us, then he wants the best for us, okay? So we each can have the opportunity to have a chance at having a good life. Versus if you go to the atheistic path, then whoever the ruler is the equivalent of God or Satan, if you will, and they just want everybody to be like a farm animal. The person's not created in the image of God. Okay, we're getting to the book Mere Christianity. This is all sort of an intro. Okay, now we're at the book, Mere Christianity. All right, so this is all C.S. Lewis from here on out. Mere Christianity is more like a hall out of which doors open into several rooms. And if I can bring anyone into that hall, I shall have done what I attempted. So the hall is sort of representing mere Christianity in general, the basics of Christianity, versus the doors might be the subdivisions of Christianity, Protestantism, Catholicism, and Mormonism, and Baptist, and all the other different branches of Christianity. Okay, C.S. Lewis continues. Human beings, after all, have some sense, and they see that they cannot have any real safety or happiness except in a society where everyone plays fair. And because of that, they see that they should try to behave decently. Ever since men have been able to think, they've been wondering what this universe really is and how it came to be here. And very roughly, two views always come up. The first view is what we'll call the materialist view. And the people who think this view believe that matter and space just happen to exist and they've always existed and nobody knows why, and that the matter behaving in certain fixed ways can be just happen to somehow fluke into becoming creatures like ourselves, and it was all a big random accident. Okay, the other view is largely the religious view. So that first view, by the way, would be the Darwinist view, the atheist Darwin view in modern terms. The other view is a religious view, and according to this, what is behind the universe is more like a mind than anything else we know. That is to say, it is conscious and it has purposes and prefers one thing to another. And on this view, it made the universe partly for purposes we do not know, but partly at any rate in order to produce creatures like itself. I mean creatures that have a mind. So that is the Christian view, the Bible view, okay, that mankind is created in the image of God. Okay, and C.S. Lewis continues, wherever there have been thinking men, both of these views turn up. Okay, and then now I'm just going ahead to some additional part of the book. But progress means getting nearer to the place where you want to be. And if you have taken a wrong turn, then going forward does not get you any nearer to where you want to be. If you are on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn, turning around and walking back till you get to the right road. And the sooner you turn around, the better, okay, to make real progress. All right. C.S. Lewis continues, it is after you have realized that there is a real moral law and a power behind the law, and that you have broken the law, and you have put yourself wrong with that power. It is after all this, and not a moment sooner, that Christianity begins to talk. And of course I quite agree that the Christian religion is in the long run a thing of unspeakable comfort. But it does not begin in comfort. It begins in dismay, this dismay which I have been describing, and it is no use at all trying to go on to that comfort without first going through that dismay. Okay, then he continues onward in the book. God made us. He invented us as a man invents an engine. A car is made to run on gasoline, or petrol is the English word for it, and it will not run on anything else. It will not run properly on anything else. Now God designed humans, the human machine, to run on himself. He himself, God, is the fuel of our spirits, on which we are designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. That is why it is just no good asking God to make us happy in our own way without bothering about religion. God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from himself because it is not there. There is no such thing. It does not exist. This is the key to history. Terrific energy is expended. Civilizations are built up. Institutions are devised. But each time something goes wrong, some fatal flaw always brings the selfish and cruel people to the top, and it all slides back down into misery and ruin. So the French Revolution comes to mind here, 1793, where basically, they claim they're going to make things better and bring freedom, and what do? They put a bunch of people in a guillotine, okay? It doesn't work without God and religion. It just doesn't. So C.S. Lewis continues. In fact, the machine conks. It seems to start up all right and runs a few yards or so, and then it breaks down. It's because they're running it the wrong stuff. This is what Satan has done to humans. Okay, C.S. Lewis continues. I'm trying thus to prevent anyone from saying a really foolish thing that people often say about God. They say, I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. But that is one thing we must not say. A man who is merely a man and said the sort of things that Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would be a lunatic on a level with the man who says he is a poached egg, or he would be a devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman, or something else, something worse. You can shut him up for a fool. You can spit on him and call him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great teacher. He has not left that option open to us. He did not intend to. Now it seems obvious to me that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend, and consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have to accept the view that he was and is God. Okay, then he continues, the central Christian belief is that Christ's death has somehow put us right with God and given us a fresh start. We are told that Christ was killed for us, that his death has washed our sins, and that by dying he disabled death itself. That is the formula. That is Christianity. That is what has to be believed. Again, Christianity asserts that every individual human being is going to live forever, and this must either be true or false. And immortality makes another difference, which, by the way, has a connection with the difference between totalitarianism and democracy. If individuals live only 70 years, then a state or a nation or a civilization, which might last for 1,000 years, is more important than the individual. Rome, by the way, is the only civilization that lasted 1,000 years, from the Republic, 500 BC to 500 AD. Okay, so C.S. Lewis continues. This immortality makes a big difference, because if Christianity is true, then the individual is not only more important, but incomparably more important, for he is everlasting, than the life of a state or a civilization, compared with the individual's immortality. The duration of a state or a civilization is only transitory, only for a moment. Okay, so that's some of the high points in C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. It's an entertaining book. I liked it. I read it and listened to the audio version of it. I think you'd enjoy it. And we don't need to go into all the way. This ties in with so much other philosophy, religious and historical, like the quotes of Fyodor Dostoevsky, that if there was no God, then everything is permitted, even cannibalism. It goes into the Fyodor Dostoevsky quotes about, if there was no such thing as immortality, that everything good on earth would dry up. Okay, and so atheism leads to all these bad problems. I've talked about that in lots of my other videos. So anyways, this is just, again, a sense of C.S. Lewis. I enjoyed his Chronicle of Narnia's books. I enjoyed the movies. I enjoyed the books about the Inklings, him and J.R. Tolkien and all the other English writers that used to meet at Oxford. It's all good, entertaining stuff, and their comparisons with G.K. Chesterton. So anyways, I hope you found this sort of interesting or useful.